Alright, real quick, time for From the Waste devlog number 7. Now, a couple of housekeeping things before we start the devlog. Before we start showing off new content, I guess. Hammers received another balance change. In the previous devlog, I changed its recharge from 1 second to 0.8 seconds. And in this video, in this devlog, I have changed its damage output from 5 to 4 per swing. That means that its damage output is identical, that its DPS is identical to what it was prior to any balance changes. It's just that it requires, more swings theoretically. So in 4 seconds, you'll do the same number of damage. You'll just do it in an extra swing. I did this to make the thing more viable for fighting late game enemies, while also because you can kill a late game enemy faster, while also making the early game enemies less cheesable by it. Before, you could kill an Esh or a Freak or one of the elite raiders in one swing. Now it takes 2. But the upped speed of the hammer makes it more usable, more viable on late game enemies, because the recharge means that you're left with an attack. You're not left without an attack for a longer period of time. Now, real quick, I'm just going to show off FRM because he now has a boss splash screen. He now has boss icons, and he now has all of the things. FRM is complete. Alright, so before I show off the thing that's changed with Gutter, regarding the chain gun, I have decreased its ammo from 50 to 40, just so that you're not relying on it over the other ammo weapons. It's supposed to be used in place of the revolver once you've ran out of your other ammo weapons, rather than just as your default ammo weapon, or use it to conserve ammo for your other ammo weapons if you're fighting a weaker enemy. It is not supposed to be used in place of those other ammo weapons, and I found myself doing that way too much in the previous playthroughs I've done to playtest the thing. So I have decreased the amount of ammo so you can rely on it less compared to your other ammo weapons. The way FTW is set up is you're supposed to swap between your ammo weapons until all of them are used up before resorting back to your regular bullet guns. And since this is the replacement for the revolver, it's essentially just a better version of your bullet gun. You're supposed to use it in place of where you'd use your revolver until you've used it too much and you have to resort back to the weak pea shooter. Now, going into Gutter's boss arena, just like I said in the previous devlog, how I gave Raid Cruncher the chain gun, I have given Gutter a new weapon. It's also part of the reason why I've debuffed the axe, nerfed the axe, I guess. You see, Gutter being the analog to Raid Cruncher whereas Raid Cruncher's the key boss of the desert. Gutter is the friggin' key boss of the prison. So I decided to give Gutter the analog to the chain gun. Chain gun is the ammo weapon equivalent of the revolver. Therefore, I gave Gutter the ammo weapon equivalent of the hammer. This is the axe. The axe is essentially a hammer that requires, ammo, even uses the same bar as the chain gun, the weapon it's an analog to. The axe has a slightly longer reach than the hammer. It has a faster recharge. Its recharge is the same as the revolver, saw blade launcher, shotgun, and grenade launcher. Not grenade launcher, grenades. And it does 7 damage instead of 4. The caveat being, obviously, 6 swings. This weapon is more useful than you think it'd be. Since you're not using the hammer too often, just having a better version of it doesn't break the game really all too much. And again, since you're not using the hammer too often, 6 ammo, not a bad trade. Now, here we have the first mini-boss of the sewer. Nothing's changed with Glubbo. I'm just showing him off because I want to show you how effective the axe is. And I think this is a good place. Since the axe and the hammer both break projectiles, yeah, Glubbo was just destroyed by the axe. And you could theoretically do it with the hammer also. It's just more difficult since, Glubbo's health pool is like 40. The axe does the cool thing where it just kills the bone gremlins in like one hit. So that's neat. And Gorjaws in 2 hits, which is not efficient because Gorjaws have 12 health, not 14, but whatever. Gonna show off Bane's death animation real quick. I'm on my way to the key boss of the graveyard area, so since I'm going to fight him anyway, might as well show off what Bane's got to do. Got new. And I have to go through the new area of the graveyard anyway that introduces the last regular enemy type of the game. He goes through the portal because, you know, Gravedigger is Bane from Maximus 2. I think I have addressed this in devlogs before, but yes, the devs did give me permission to do that. Yes, I am going to reference Maximus 2 and credit the four fats directly in Gravedigger's bio because, again, it's a cameo character where the devs knew about the cameo before it happened. It's not like a reference, it is quite literally a cameo. Anyway, time to show off the new enemy. This is the Unit. Unit's pretty simple, kind of. He has the slam that Bubba does. He does a clanker charge but faster. That's what he does. He's essentially just a combination of those two enemies. And he has 20 health just like the Elite Scout. He does that little thing where he breaks in half, where his top half breaks off, revealing the little dude inside. And then the little dude falls over because, like, the chemical environment he was in doesn't exist anymore and he just dies. Ooh. It's weird that, like, the new flesh are, like, the main villains of this game. And, there's only 2 regular enemies that are new flesh members, the Geg and the Unit. The Elite Scout kind of has the new flesh aesthetic as well, so that's neat, I guess, but it canonically isn't one, so, Or at least it wasn't intended to be. I might retcon it. It's not really a retcon if it doesn't have a bio yet, but whatever. Yeah, the axe can kill the tankiest enemy in the game in a second and a half, so that's neat, I guess. Alright, we're on to the key boss of the graveyard. This is a big one. It is a character who has been in none of my games, but has been planned for like 9,000 of them. It is the legend himself, the mascot of the channel, the buggy boy himself, Lotus. Now, Lotus has less health than King does, but he has a lot faster attacks, you know. And he only has 2 attacks, actually, but I think they're both fairly dangerous, right? He has 180 total health. And, again, those 2 attacks right there. The one where he summons the flies, they come in all directions. And the one where he spins his sword and sends projectiles out in all 4 cardinal directions. Just like King, I think the friggin' first boss of the area is more difficult. I thought Natto was harder than King. I think that Gravedigger is harder than Lotus here. Now, I'm going to recommend this as a little pro strat. What you want to do for Lotus is you want to empty all of your axe ammo into him before using any of your other guns, since his only friggin' projectile that comes out of him himself, the only thing you have to worry about is that, which you can A, move under pretty easily, or B, destroy with the axe if you time it correctly. I'm going to go ahead and murder him with the axe. Make sure all rounds go into him. And then he turns into phase 2. Giga Lotus has 140 health. Regular Lotus has 40. This guy has 140. It's baked into his walking animation. It's part of his walking animation. So he just does like 6 frames of his walk animation and then turns into that. There are 2 separate sprites in the game thing, but I think that's neat. Just so it can just happen randomly. Whatever attack Lotus is currently doing, he will finish before doing the transformation. He has the same 2 attacks that he has in Phase 1, they're just harder variants. And he has 1 new attack. That is pretty easy to dodge the bite. It's slower than Fink's Ram, but obviously he has a bigger hitbox. And there are likely to be projectiles on screen, hence why it's slower. It's to compensate. Overall, again, where he only has like 40 health. I mean, not 40, 140 health. The lowest of any bot of the not the lowest. He has the second lowest health of the no, the lowest of the two late game key bosses. Yeah, I was right the first time. It's again, that's the other reason why you want to empty all of your axe ammo into him first. Because in Phase 2, it's far more of a risky maneuver. Anyway, after you beat him, he turns back into normal Lotus and says that. So that's neat, I guess. And that's the last key boss of the game. All 4 key bosses are beat, meaning hypothetically if the final area is coded in, which I'm in the process of doing that, if the final area was implemented, you'd be able to go to where that's located and enter it. More than likely, where I'm going to put it is in this main room here of the friggin' desert. Like, there's a little thing here, and it's got like 4 keys on it. Each of the key bosses, the rooms next to them have a key in them. That's why there's a room next to the bed below the king. I didn't feel like putting a side room in King's room itself, so that's why that exists. I've not fought King on this run, so I can't demonstrate that, but whatever. And there currently isn't a room next to Lotus's room. I'll add that later. So Lotus is in the hub now. You can talk to him, and he says a different line of dialogue. Ooh. It didn't feel right to have Lotus be a boss who, like, you know, died, considering he's the mascot of the channel. He's just gonna be an annoying little shit bastard for the rest of all of my games. And there he is. Let's talk about where Lotus came from for a second. Lotus was created during Takeover. Takeover being the game where I was obsessed as having as many weird demon things from different mythologies as possible. Weird demon and underworld stuff, not just demons. So we had like friggin' Mammon, we had Abaddon, which is what Lotus is. We had friggin', what's his name, Charon, the guy who, you know, steers the river Styx. And the final boss was literally the friggin' Death, the Grim Reaper. So, yeah. Bulby Exit Man, the guy from friggin' Hollow Waste 2, is a very loose reference to Lotus in the sense that they're both buggy boys who are secretly demons. Bulby Exit Man is very obviously Beelzebub. He has the whole fly motif going on. Lotus, being a reference to Abaddon, is a locust. The name is not subtle at all there. Lotus, locust, yeah, but, eh. I have no idea what I'm going to write in his friggin' journal entry. Yeah, Takeover was a weird time. Anyway, time to show off. I'm going to go to the title screen now because there's nothing actually to show off left in this run. I'm going to go hit data reset, sure, and show off the short intro section we have. This right here is the new Flesh Lab, the final area of the game. It's where you start the game off. You start the game off a little under halfway through it. There's no enemies in this room. There will be enemies in this room when you revisit it towards the end of the game. This is showing how Froth got captured. There's no boss ahead thing right here. There will be once you go to it the second time. And here's the boss that you have to fight. Bark Spark. He has no boss splash or health bar. There will be the second time you fight him. He's actually identical to the second time you fight him mechanically. It's just that you're not going to beat him with your hammer. You have to hit him 75 times before he depletes your health, which is not happening. Barkspark is the hardest boss currently in the game and will probably be the hardest mandatory boss. He has like 5 different projectile moves, which is the most of any boss, unless you count Lotus, but 2 of his moves are just variations of moves from his first phase, and there's no point in which he can use all 5 moves in the same cycle. Barkspark can do that spray move. He does that jump AoE, which is kind of useless. He does the grenade toss, where he throws 3 grenades. He does that huge shotgun thing, and then he charges at the player, which he isn't currently not doing. He's just choosing not to do it. There it is. And once he hits a wall, it's very glitchy, but once he hits a wall, he'll create that huge, another shotgun thing. I'll probably, honestly, remove the ability to make projectiles from his charge thing. But, whatever. It's his one melee attack. It should probably stay a melee attack. This guy will be harder than the final boss, probably, because the final boss will be more about having interesting, unique attacks that are fun and weird phase transitions and stuff like that, rather than being a difficult encounter. Barkspark is really your final test to see if you've mastered fighting bosses. Hence why he is hellish. I might actually increase the size of his AoE. It's kind of pathetic right now, but whatever. That's Bark Spark for you. And then you start the game. If you hit reset, you'll spawn in here. I'm going to add an option in the settings screen, probably on this part right here, since there's no buttons on this side. I might make the created by Mechas Melting and Hellbeer Games thing smaller. Heck, I might make these buttons over here smaller. They're way too big right now. But I'm going to add little buttons that you can flick that don't get reset when you hit the sure button there. I'm going to add little buttons you can click that turn off cutscenes and also the intro, which is not a cutscene. I also have to add a cutscene in the intro. Obviously, Froth gets knocked out by fighting Bark Spark and then gets moved to the prison. That's the concept there. So I'm thinking about adding a cutscene that shows off Dimitri, the main villain of the game, handing Froth over to the Raiders, and then the Raiders agreeing to like protect the 4 keys that lead to Dimitri's place or whatever. It's a stupid plot, but like From the Waste is the stupidest game I've ever made. It has He Who Is the Big in it and a boss named King Shit. So like, yeah,